Welcome to another episode of Tangled Rights. I'm one of your hosts, Justin W. Wilson.
I'm Shane Cox. We are on episode 45.
45 and 47. No?
Is that like an
a
inside
Trump
joke or
joke.
something?
A Trump
Trump.
joke.
Not- it's- I don't know.
I didn't see that coming.
No. We have an esteemed guest today.
Oh,
we do.
wow.
Give our spiel.
Not legal advice, not designed to constitute a lawyer-client relationship. If you have specific questions, please contact a local attorney unless we're local, Kansas and Nevada. You can't call him yet, but someday you'll be able to. He's just as licensed as we are, probably twice as good. Without further ado, Mr. Luna, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Marco Luna, attorney with the Clark County Public Defender's Office here in Las Vegas. Been an attorney for 6.5 years in the Valley, and fortunate enough to be part of the office. Got hired right out of law school.
Where'd you go to law school?
Here at Boyd in
Okay.
Vegas.
Great law school where I went as well.
You graduated
2018.
18?
Yeah.
Okay.
You started right when I ended. I got out 2015. So
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And I graduated 17
Gotcha.
from another school.
all around the same time, Marco Luna is our public defender. We see a lot, or Justin sees a lot, because we're overlapping courtrooms. And so
That's a team, right? You're on.
Yeah, I'm on the JC2 team.
Oh, you guys call it JC2. You don't just call it like L whatever.
No, we call it by the justice court that we're in.
Okay, and then you have the same. It's basically like you have a track, but it's not a track. It's just JC2 to DC4 and DC18.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's all you do.
That's it. Just that
Okay.
one track. I mean, every now and then,
I
hop.
feel like I've seen you not just you, but like Alex and a couple other people. Like,
Yeah, it depends. Like sometimes we'll have older cases on different tracks, or we have mutual clients on different tracks, or even we'll hop on cases for different tracks too, if we're trying to get different experience or something.
do you ever? Because I know like with the DAs, it's typically teams of two whenever they're trying cases. Do you ever get pulled in that way to another?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
For example, another attorney wants like co-counsel for a
Right.
particular case, and we have extra time to volunteer for it. Yeah, certainly.
So how does that work? Like, do they just send out an APB to everybody? Like, hey, I got this case. Who wants to help?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
Usually the attorney will have someone in mind already. Like, for example, if I have a trial going forward and I have someone in the office who I'd love to do it with, I just hit them up. Like,
Oh,
yo,
cool.
you down to do this trial with me? And it's usually a yes, as long as the schedule's fine.
So does it work the same way with the DAs where like you have a team chief?
Yes.
And
Yes.
is Alex? Is y'all's
Yeah.
team chief? Okay.
Alex.
And then are you, what do they call it? It's when you get promoted, but you're not a chief.
senior? Do they call you guys senior?
No, just chief public defender. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's just deputy public defender. And then after 5 years, you get promoted to chief.
So you're a chief.
Yes.
Okay. But he's the team chief.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
so
So it's
you-
the same structure.
Yeah, exactly. You could be a chief and not be a team chief. Just
And-
means you're part of a team.
Are you guys
The leader one.
union?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Cool.
Obviously.
I don't
They're the
fucking-
public defender's office.
I don't know, dude.
The reason we invited Marco today specifically is
Well,
yesterday.
Among many things.
Among
but-
many is yesterday. It was a anniversary of the Gideon case, Gideon versus Wainwright, which is kind of a famous case for public defenders. I don't know if you have the pin that some public defenders wear all the time. Some of them wear them all the time.
Yeah.
In North Las Vegas, the public defender was wearing it yesterday. I don't know if he always does or not, but a pin, Gideon versus Wainwright, with the year 1963 on there. Just the Gideon case is super important, super cool, kind of made the states have to pay for public defenders, which they didn't want to do. So that's the reason last minute Marco is coming on today. He's willing and ready and
Well, that's
able. And
that's just an example of us and like how much we suck. Because this morning, I don't even know what happened. We were texting about it, and I was like, "Did you ask me or did I say?"
I asked you. I
Oh.
asked you.
Well, let me ask. And so I went and I was like, I got 3 people in mind.
Oh, wow.
It was you, Alex, and Christian.
And that was the last one.
No, you were the second one I saw, and the first one I asked with any seriousness. I asked Christian first, but he's like, "Oh, I got a haircut." Because I heard him say the haircut. I was like, "You doing the haircut at 1?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, well, you could have been on the podcast." And then I saw you second. I was like, "Yeah, we'll see if you do it."
Well, we had Carrie Maxey on before, who used to be on the team. Used to be
Oh
on the
yeah, she
team,
was on the same, when she was on the same team. It was when she was running for judge.
but now she's
Oh,
a
okay.
judge. So
Yeah.
That's
So, did you always want to be an attorney?
No, I did not.
How did that happen for you?
It's a little bit of a long story.
We have time.
Okay. So when I was in college, I didn't do well. I almost got kicked out of CSN. It's our local community college because my grades were so bad.
Were you just dicking off or what?
Yeah, I just wasn't very good at school until I took an English class. It was, I think, world literature, if memory serves, and I really liked it. And I liked
to read Humbaba and Gilgamesh.
Yeah,
and all the epics.
Yeah, and it was cool. I just got to read these stories and then talked about it with the class, and the instructor was like, hey, you're pretty good at that. Why don't you just keep taking English classes? And I'm like,
I can do that?
Yeah, you're right. Why don't I just do that? And so I went from having really bad grades to basically having straight A's because I just got to read books, and that was chill. So I ended up doing an English major in UNLV after I got my general ed done at CSN. And there was a professor at the time who was like a mentor to me. Funny story. I took a test. He was one of the first classes I took at UNLV, and I failed one of his tests. And he put my essay on the projector for the whole class
That was
to
like
see.
your name was blacked out.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you knew.
And I knew.
And he knew that you knew.
And he was like, look at this writing. This is the writing of a redneck. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is terrible. But
Aren't
then
you Colombian?
I am. Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything?
I think the way I
Not
wrote,
redneck.
like I didn't write like very eloquently or
Oh,
great or anything like that.
But you speak really...
I appreciate that, man.
I don't know,
I
dude.
like to think I
Like,
speak okay.
Being a fucking redneck, like you're as far from a redneck.
I get that, but
Whatever.
this is a long time ago.
Okay,
I was
all right,
younger.
all right,
I don't know. Whatever. Long story short, he allowed me to take the test again, and he gave me a book, Shrunken Wright's Elements of Style. And he said, read this book, do the test again. I did. I got a B. And then after that, he just kept being a mentor for me. He was a really cool dude. And after I was finishing up my English degree, I talked to him. I was like, oh, I want to be an English professor. That's what I want to do. I want to do what you do. And he's like, absolutely not. No, you're going to go to law school. And I was just like, what? I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to law. I don't want to be a lawyer. It's like, no, that's what you're going to do. You're just going to go to law school. And
and then I went.
and that's basically exactly what happened.
So I was told to be a lawyer, and I was one.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
At the time, I was also in a band. So in my mind, I was like, okay, well,
If this whole law school thing doesn't work.
yeah, like maybe I could be like a contract attorney or be like a band manager. Like in my mind, that's what I thought.
You do contracts. Yeah.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So, whatever, LSAT, got into law school, everything worked out. Took contracts, which I did very well in, but I hated it. I hated law
Who was
school.
your professor for contracts? Rowley?
No, I don't think it was Rowley.
Okay.
Older guy, and he loved to pick my name in class. He just loved my name. He loved saying Mr. Luna, and so I got picked almost every day, which is why I did well, because I had to read all the cases because I was going to get picked. Long story short,
If you read the assigned reading, you do good.
yeah. But
Or
you have to read everything.
Or you watch the videos
What videos?
on Quimby. There's videos like we watched one
Oh,
earlier.
just
Yeah.
fucking-
Dude, I had that Quimby subscription on lock for sure.
I didn't even know what that was until today.
No, bro, you missed out.
Yeah.
Apparently, I just read the books.
But during law school, I hated it. And me and my buddy and I did a externship at Legal Aid Center where we helped with immigration. And we did like presentations on immigration and pathways to get legalized and things like that. And I remember one day this woman was like, gracias a Dios por su ayuda. Like, thank you so much for your help. And it made me feel something. And I was like, oh my God, what is that feeling? It felt really good.
What?
Justin
Ew.
doesn't know what that is, but okay.
That sounds terrible. Did you like go to the doctor and
Yeah, I know.
How
had
can
to
I
get-
just push this down?
put it back on the anger shelf?
But then it kind of started a little spark there. And I was like, oh, wait, hold on. There's something there.
There's
Wait a minute.
low-income people that need help that don't know where to go.
Yeah.
You could just
What?
do the back end of that.
And
People
it-
that need help.
Yeah. And it just felt good. And
That's good, man.
That's kind of what started me along the path. And
So, how did you end up with PD instead of legal aid then?
so
Because I'm sure legal aid would have taken you.
I just did that externship with them for immigration. And while in law school, I don't know if you know John Piro in our office.
Yeah.
Of course.
He's great.
He loves to do talks at the school, and at the time, I think it was one of the professors said, "Oh, well, if you really liked legal aid, you should also consider the public defender's office." And Piro had done a presentation at the law school, and I got to chatting with him, and he's like, "Let's meet up. Let's get coffee. Let's hang out." So I did meet up with him, and thought he was a really cool dude. We talked about the office, and after that, I was like, I want to extern. So I did. Externed one summer at the office, and I immediately like fell in love with it. Like it, I don't know how to explain it. Just like the people in the office, like the work that they do, the kind of chaotic structure that is like being a
That
PD.
is criminal law.
It just felt great, and just
Sure.
being in core, it just all felt so good, and helping people and doing the work.
So you feel called,
Yeah,
to put it succinctly.
yeah, I did, and
Good.
that was it. It was done.
Did John oversell it like you're going to be the enforcement of the Constitution? Like you are the stopgap to not let the state take over.
I don't think it was
Or is
that.
it a little bit at a time? Like,
Yeah,
this is
it
a
was
great
a little
job.
bit at
You're
a
feel
time.
that
helping
way?
people.
That were like the stopgap for the Constitution. I think so. Absolutely.
I think so.
I do.
But I
100%.
mean, we're three like-minded individuals on the defense
Well, I thought
side
that as a
here.
prosecutor as well,
Yeah.
because I look at it like you look at prosecutorial discretion, or not just from a prosecutor, but from the police, right? They have the
Mhm.
discretion to charge or not charge. I look at every level like you have your own little microcosm of defending the Constitution.
Sure.
And so as a prosecutor, and I've told this kind of stuff a couple of times, I think we've talked about it, where I would literally throw cases away because I'm like, look, we're going to lose on a Fourth Amendment challenge. Guaranteed. It gets suppressed. There's no fucking point. I'm not going to waste their time. I'm not going to waste my time or your time. Do better.
Sure.
Right. And then we now in this position, when they don't do the right thing, even though they're supposed to wear the white hat,
Yeah.
we have to enforce it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I kind of think that it should be theoretically, the cops should just follow the rules. The prosecutors should be
Yeah.
like, hey, you didn't follow the rules. I'm not even going to waste my time with this. And then we have to be like filtering everything through, like, oh, you did follow the rules. Go ahead and go to the trial.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it from that perspective, like letting them into a club, right? You don't get in because you didn't wear the right shit.
I think a lot of people know the judges have a lot of the power, but the prosecutors, I've had somebody comment to me after going through process and seeing, man, that prosecutor has so much power in the case.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They can change things to be, from over here to over here, like such a huge impact on the case. And
Yeah. Unfortunately, I tell clients sometimes that the criminal justice system is just a lottery, and you either get lucky and you get a good DA and you get a good judge and your case works out how it should. But sometimes you don't, and you get a DA or a judge that's not good for you, or a particular DA who is arbitrarily picking a particular person for another notch on their belt for their track record, and will just arbitrarily be like, I'm going to light this guy up.
Or
Just
when you
'cause.
get close to that 5-year mark and it's like, hey, this person wants to make chief, they need to get a few more W's.
Yeah.
So instead of the offer that you would have gotten at any other point in the last 4.5 years, well, 3.5 years after they get off probation, you're going to go to trial on this one unless you want to plead straight up.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
It sucks that's unfortunately how the criminal justice system works.
I think it sucks worse through that lens, because I agree with you wholeheartely, but with the track that we have.
Mm.
did you guys see the recent article on Washoe County's prosecutor's office and how they've been taking an absurd number of cases to trial versus all the other counties in the state? Like their percentage of cases going to trial is just extremely high, and kind of their head DA is kind of under fire for that. So
Probably because he's given bullshit offers and they've got no choice.
that's what it is breaking down to, is they have kind of minimum numbers of trial, which I don't think should be the standard. It should be justice of the
No.
case and the facts specifically. But sometimes the public pushes back on that, and there's one article that even
Which
you
is-
guys
which
don't
is
see,
true.
and it's like kind of sad that it's not more widely publicized. But more of the stories we see is man was let out of jail and then committed this next
Yeah.
crime. So we see things that bolster up the prosecution,
And it's
instead of
always
the
the squeaky
defense.
wheel that gets the grease. But how many times every week? I mean, I see it somewhat infrequently, but regularly still. Person comes in, it's a 2-year-old case, it's a 3-year-old case. Congratulations, you earned your drop down. You are no longer a felon. How many times do you hear that? Regular. Like,
Not that often, unfortunately.
no.
Well, you mean like how many cases that where clients actually get drop downs?
Like
Yeah.
that's considered the win, I guess.
Right.
you
No,
know?
that's what I'm saying. So like,
Oh, yeah,
for everybody
absolutely.
that gets let out and
Sure.
does something wild and, goes and commits another crime, there's people that get the opportunity. They get their punishment. They get their supervision. They jump through the hoops and they get to reintegrate as a productive member of society, hopefully who has learned something and gotten a little bit more mature.
Yeah.
I see them all the time. And even if it's not my client, if they're walking past me, I congratulate them. And I mean it, because there's so many others. And it's like, dude, those things, it's like, fuck yeah, it can work.
Yeah.
It can work.
And it's a shame that I see what point you're trying to make. And it's just like that doesn't necessarily get the public perception that
Never.
it needs. No. You just get the guy who gets out and commits some heinous crime. We need to be tough on crime and not like the people who are actually rehabilitating and doing well and doing great. And
or going through drug court or, whatever programs that actually helps them
Right.
and rehabilitates them.
Exactly.
There's so many of those, and those don't get publicized at all. But it is what it is.
Sucks.
All right, so we wanted to talk about this Gideon case a little bit. Decided March 18th, 1963. We're March 19th recording this. So now it's been, how many years has that been? What year are we in? 62.
68.
62.
What?
62 years, 1963. Yeah, you can't do math.
37. I'm an idiot.
So
Whatever. That's fine. I'm a fucking lawyer.
before this, the U.S. Supreme Court had decided that the right to defense counsel only applied for federal crimes, not state crimes, which is a little confusing, right? I mean, with the 10th Amendment and 14th Amendment, we're a little confused by that.
Even with felonies?
Even with felonies. So Florida's statute specifically said you were only entitled to an attorney for capital punishment crimes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You only get a lawyer if the death penalty
You
is
only
on.
get
But
a
if
lawyer.
it's life.
Yeah. So this
Whoops.
this happens in the Florida Panhandle.
So what the fuck did they do then? It's
They
like,
just
you're
represented
charged.
themselves.
You're charged with armed robbery with use of a deadly weapon, life tail.
You're on your own.
Good luck. How's that opening statement coming along? What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Are you
Horrible.
rich? Oh, no. Sorry. You
So-
got to represent yourself.
That sucks.
Clarence Earl Gideon, born in 1910, he has a history of crimes throughout various states. So maybe some other states he was entitled to attorneys, and then he gets to Florida, and they're the state that doesn't, require an attorney. He had done time in Missouri for larceny, Texas for theft. He had been married 4 times, had tuberculosis. This is just, a sign of the times. He was a person of the times. Had 3 stepkids and then 3 kids himself, which were taken by the state. So a tough history. Like some of the clients that, might present themselves to you, Marco, or us on the track as well. So June 3rd, 1961, he's now living in Panama City, Florida, in the Florida Panhandle. $5 goes missing from a pool hall with some bottles of beer and some bottles of Coke, okay? Missing from this pool hall. Not the crime of the century. $5 is worth $50 now. Not worth that much.
It's not even a felony.
The guy with the history, though,
Well, I guess they could get you for
they got him for a felony.
burglary.
The guy with the history, somebody points out and says, I saw this guy Gideon, he was in the area. I think I saw him leaving the pool hall. They go search him. They find some coins in his pocket, and that's it. Okay. So he gets arraigned in his case, in his history. He even says, I want my attorney. Where's my attorney? So he's kind of the poster boy for this. Kind of interesting that he's not like the most clean guy with the most clean history, but he becomes kind of this example, and it's
But he also
pretty awesome.
knew what to say at least.
He kind of
because-
knew what to say. Yeah.
Which is crazy because he only had an 8th grade education. He wasn't, didn't come from like an educated background either. But he at least knew, and he had the forethought to say, no, I need a lawyer. Like I deserve to have a lawyer. This is not fair.
Yeah, and then some of this other stuff he does is pretty remarkable for a guy in his situation. I think he said his dad died when he was 3, raised just by his mom. Just difficult situation. Out of his own house in his teenage years, just kind of living on the streets. Kind of the prototypical client, we might see in our case. So Gideon has to take his case to trial by himself, representing himself against the full force and authority of the state, which seems to have just endless resources to subpoena witnesses, to get whoever there, coming up with an opening statement, closing argument, questioning witnesses
Well,
is a
the-
tough job.
Other thing that's super interesting, I'm assuming he was in custody.
Yeah.
How's he going to do any
Assuming-
sort of investigation or anything?
Yeah.
Like what? That's
Yeah.
that's another part that's nuts. Okay, if we're going to make them try their own case, cool, got to let them out.
And I know
Right?
Yeah.
nowadays everybody has investigators. These pro se people that are going pro se on cases have investigators to help them out. I'm going to doubt that Gideon had any investigators
I doubt
helping
it.
him out in his defense. So he maintained his innocence the entire time. Gets convicted at trial by a jury of his peers that sometimes are not as impartial as we would hope. Whether he did the crime or not, I don't know. That never gets established conclusively, right? So Gideon himself writes up his notice of appeal to both the state Supreme Court, and then you have to appeal your state case to your state Supreme Court, your state final court, before you can take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. So he writes up his own appeal. He loses his state appeal. And then in a handwritten note that has, now we see everywhere, people, you can pull this up, him asking for cert from the U.S. Supreme Court, because the U.S. Supreme Court does not have to take cases. They get to choose whether or not to take cases. Unlike state Supreme Courts, you have a right for your case to get appealed to your state Supreme Court. To the U.S. Supreme Court, you don't. So he appeals the case with this handwritten kind of note, and the U.S. Supreme Court, which is fairly liberal at the time, decides to take up this case. We looked at the history. There's these early 60s cases that come out where we've talked about Miranda a lot. That comes out in 1966. So this is 1963, kind of the first huge case that kind of changes some of these rights, or establishes rights, or clarifies the rights that we think maybe should have been in place all along, of having the right to an attorney. So he does. There are some firms that take up and help him and assist him in the briefing of this case after certiorari is granted. And it gets argued on his behalf, and the Supreme Court overwhelmingly says, Florida, your law is wrong. You need to have the right to an attorney that now we just completely,
Take for granted.
take for granted, was not there in the early 60s. Not guaranteed in all states. They could put you in prison for your life and you could not have an attorney.
That's the part that's
which is just
insane.
insane.
And it's not that long ago.
Yeah.
My fucking dad was alive then.
Yeah.
Granted, I mean, he would have been, 63? So he'd have been 7 years old, but still, that's in my dad's lifetime? That's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it is. And it was a unanimous decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. And the argument, he actually got appointed counsel for the appeal. And it was really a fundamental fairness argument. How can an individual with an 8th grade education without counsel be forced to go against the state? Really, it's not fair. And the only person who could get legal counsel was the person who could afford it. So it was a really simple argument, and it was an obvious unanimous ruling. And thanks to that, I have a job.
Thanks to that, many other things that have taken place. But
Great things.
Yeah.
yeah, and some quotes from this decision.
And you wonder, what's the waterfall effect, right? How many of the decisions that we end up getting to that change the landscape of criminal procedure in the United States come from the fact that now you have this army of attorneys who are set to be defense attorneys, right? Obviously, Miranda was before this, whatever.
Miranda was after.
Maybe Miranda wouldn't have happened. Who knows? Maybe this guy just goes to prison. He doesn't have the wherewithal, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
How many of these other states, Chimmel, et cetera, I don't know. Maybe this is the thing that sets all this other shit in motion, that sets, good precedent.
Post their hearing, he gets an attorney, goes back to trial, and he wins. He gets acquitted. And I think after that, I can't remember off the top of my head, but a large amount of people's cases in Florida got overturned. People were released because they didn't have counsel. Thanks to this guy with an 8th grade education who wrote a letter to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right. The two quotes from the decision that I just absolutely loved. Hugo Black was the Supreme Court justice that wrote the decision. He said that the right to counsel is a necessity, not a luxury. And that's, comes from rich people only being able to afford attorneys. The right of one charged with crime to counsel may not be deemed fundamental and essential to fair trials in some countries, but it is in ours. So that's the idea that there are probably some arguments politically at the time because it is a political thing. There is so much with the Supreme Court that's political, saying, oh, this is going to cost the states so much money. It's going to be so expensive. Let's, have this money go other places. So they're comparing us to other countries.
Sure.
We have rights, and the right to counsel was one of those 10 amendments, wasn't it? Wasn't it in there?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it be applied to all the states and just federal crimes? Like that just makes no sense to me. So
It's almost like they're suspending disbelief on the fact that the Bill of Rights is the low water mark, not the high water mark, right? If it's going to apply, it applies to the entire federated states, right? It's not just the federal government, it's everybody, and then they can go above that.
the only other interpretation would be, you can have an attorney if you can afford one. Otherwise,
Or if you're charged federally.
Yeah, the Constitution allows you to get an attorney if you can pay for one.
But that
It's
also
like,
then
what?
creates a gap to where this Bill of Rights that are supposed to be inalienable, given to us not by the government, protected by the government, but everybody endowed by their creator or whatever, exists over here in this magical little land. But in all the other places, all 50 of the other places, you're fucked. That just seems stupid. It's incongruent.
It's crazy.
It doesn't make sense.
And it's the difference between the U.S. and insert name dictatorship here, where they could just lock people up and they get no representation whatsoever.
Sure, and like you can dial it back a little bit to where it's it's not even something as serious as that, but like crimes that you can't get charged for here that you can get charged for in other places, right? Like the free speech stuff. There's a big debate going on right now about I don't know if you've seen them, those videos of police coming to someone's house because they posted something on Facebook. And it's literally, they'll be filming it and they've got their body cams and they're like, constable, whatever. I want to talk to you about your Facebook post. And they pull out a little piece of paper and they're like, did you on this date? And then they read them their version of, anything you say can and will. It's like anything you tell me can be used later, whatever. I'll find one of the videos and send it to you on Instagram. It's fucking ridiculous, but it's literally based on a Facebook post. And that's England. We're not even talking about, Cuba or North Korea. We're talking about fucking England.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just nuts, man. We're very lucky.
One more interesting fact about this case, the defense attorney that tries the case afterward is Abe Fortas, who eventually does become a U.S. Supreme Court justice as well. So he's afforded a pretty good attorney after this, which is a famous case. The U.S. Supreme Court decision comes out, so everybody knows the name now, Gideon. So he gets appointed an excellent attorney, gets the acquittal, as you mentioned, and then his attorney is such a good attorney, eventually does become a U.S. Supreme Court justice and one of the more liberal Supreme Court justices with President Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson, who is one of your favorite presidents, right?
Yep.
Have you heard Lyndon B. Johnson stories?
No.
Oh, well.
We'll talk about him later.
Okay.
After the podcast, ask me. There's some really funny ones.
All right.
He was a character. All right. An interesting.
Do you guys talk about that at all? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Like, do you ever have some kind of like, when you get brought in, they like give you the rah-rah speech. This is what we do. Do you guys, as public defenders, do you like, you know what I mean? Like look at it as your lineage, your history as an attorney, like it's because you're different, right? Public defenders, prosecutors, you got your own special little, I don't know what to call it, like a fraternity, right? You're special.
Sure.
In a way, do you have anybody in there who's like really fighting the good fight and they talk about this kind of stuff? Or is it something?
Just yesterday during the anniversary, there was donuts and cookies and, there was emails circulating with the
Hey, remember why we're here or whatever. Okay.
And one of the attorneys had badges, like
That's
the
good.
Gideon badges to pass around to everyone.
I like
so
that.
That's, it's important for us. Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because as a
private attorneys, we're not implicated with this, right? Oh, well,
we
you
got
have
a
the track. You
so
have the
it's
track.
same thing.
So.
But I don't know. I guess I'm not like you guys, but I'm not like you guys. I would never go to somebody and be like, oh, even though we're doing some of the same stuff.
Yeah.
I get your leftovers.
It's true.
I know. I always joke about it.
Conflict cases.
Well, that's the joke I always make, and I think I've made it to you. I'm like, oh, the wind fucking blew different. Sure, get off the case. Why not give it to me? Give me 2 appointments in one day, you bitch.
But no, a lot of attorneys care a lot about it. There's attorneys in our office that have Gideon on tattooed on them.
Yeah.
So it's important.
Yeah. I like as long as it's done in like a, not crazy way. I like people that believe really hard, even prosecutors.
No, I mean, we
that
have,
believe in justice.
absolutely.
Like,
I mean, our office is very fortunate. We have great attorneys in our office, and everyone is like select hired to be like what we use, like a true believer. Like, we believe in what we do, and we do aim to help people. And that's obviously our main goal.
Yeah.
But one interesting thing about like the legacy, talk about the legacy of Gideon, and what it means for, not maybe for us, because we're in Vegas, but if you think about some of these outlying counties, outlying districts where, oh yeah, sure, you get an attorney. This attorney, he's the only attorney in town, and he's got all the cases in town, which
He handles the contracts, the water law,
so it when we think about like the legacy of it, it's really there's also some fundamental unfairness in that in itself too.
Right. Because there was another Supreme Court case that basically there's not a definitive line, but it says that more than this many cases is ineffective assistance.
Right.
Right. You can't be expected to have 1,000 active cases as a single attorney and be able to handle them all.
There has to be competency.
It's like 200 or 300, right? But that's still a crazy number.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I'm pretty sure they say like, we don't know what ineffective is, but we know this much is okay.
Sure.
And I forget the number. I remember it's a case we looked at in law school. That's all I remember.
I think it rings a bell as well.
Yeah. But either way, what you're saying is true. Like it could suck.
And where you just have an attorney with, I mean, even attorneys in bigger cities, public defender's office, it's like common trope is they're overworked, underpaid, tons of cases. You know what I mean? That the states need to fund PD's office accordingly with their caseloads.
And you guys are paid decently compared to other PDs and other areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the prosecutors are here too. I remember when I first came here, I got offers from 3 different places, and this was the highest out of all the others. Like from the first year deputy, this was higher. Clark County's higher than Brooklyn and Cook County, which is Chicago.
Which for our cost of living is
way
great.
better. Yeah, that was.
And we're on the same pay structure as the DA's office too.
It's great.
Nice. So it's like an even playing field.
Yeah, you're not like. Because there were people
choosing the money.
Well, there were people
right. Sure.
I want to be in criminal law. Which way should I go?
There were people in the Midwest that like would you hear people went to some rural county in Missouri where they're from or whatever, and they start out at like $28,000 a year.
Yeah,
and that was 2017, but still, what the fuck?
That's crazy. Like, yeah,
I don't know. Maybe for a contract, and you can run 4 or 5 contracts at once, whatever. But like, they have the same thing in Kansas as me, basically track attorneys, but they I forget what bids is what it's called, and they pay you hourly though on all the cases. You just submit at the end of the month. Gotcha. So it's a little different. It's not a flat fee, but also they don't have the same level of right because the case numbers are so much lower.
Sure.
Right, one department here, like the JC2 track, will have more cases than the entirety of District 14, which is 2 counties, because the population there is 3,300 in one county and 45 in another.
Sure.
So it's apples and oranges. But it's, to your point, it does trickle down, and it is good then that you have that. So what's next?
Well,
I feel like I just talked myself into a corner.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like digress.
Oh, you're good. This happens to us more than
no.
Whatever.
We're just so grateful for public defenders too. I never did criminal law before, and I started with Justin, starting the firm, starting to do criminal law. I've become a believer, a real strong believer, and it's not the many clients, because a lot of them are the same that are stuck in a system that can't get out. But if there's the one that's wrongfully accused and can't afford to have an attorney, somebody gave a wrong description or something, they could be, have the gun pointed straight at them with the full power of the state of Nevada with nowhere to turn unless you assist them in a way and actually do some kind of effort. And criminal law isn't like inside the box either. There's a lot outside the box going knocking on doors, talking to people. Like, it's more human investigative work than nerdy law work, which is a lot of other jobs out there. So there's a real human element to it. And I can't imagine some of the clients we have representing themselves in cases.
Yeah.
And I mean, even taking a case to trial, which is a huge step, when they can't even, focus on the basics. Hey, this is your arraignment. Don't argue your case
Sure.
and tell me
That
why you're
frustrates the
not
shit out of
guilty.
me.
All
Yeah.
you have to do is say not guilty. You're going to get the discovery. That's the rules that are in place. Sorry, you're not having trial today.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You can't have a trial on the date of an arraignment. Okay.
Yeah.
You have a right to a speedy trial, and it would be quick if that's what you want. But, just wait. Just wait. So these people representing themselves, I don't know how it would have even worked. It makes zero sense to me. I don't know if attorneys were just cheap at the time, like really trying to undercut others and giving cheap prices because something's better than nothing. So, Gideon really just buckling down and self-representing the whole case is just insane. Because I would guess in Florida, people still were by and large represented. They just had to work out the funding a little bit differently. So it's a difficult job. We go into the court and see just how many people have the public defender.
Yeah.
You guys get so many of the cases that it's almost a presumption now that people will qualify for it.
It's
and
below the
most
poverty
do.
line, right? That's the threshold.
I forget what the exact number is that if they can't make above a certain number.
But it's basically like a tax kind of thing. It's like family size, income. If you're under this for this number and this number, it's like the little chart. Go up here, go over there, then you qualify, and if not, you don't.
And then I think even if you don't qualify, you could still get a PD. You just have to pay a fee.
It's the same in Kansas, and I didn't know that here, but in Kansas, it's the same thing. If you make $5,000 too much, they're like, okay, we'll let you have the PD, but you have to pay $500.
But you almost never see that.
No.
We almost always.
That's why I didn't know it
qualify.
existed here, is because I've never seen it.
It's almost like automatic. And you guys in the court never seem to, push somebody away if it's
No, absolutely
unnecessary. So they accept most of the cases that they get. Most people still
You and
don't.
I have one that I'm kind of salty about.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
Or I conflicted off or something? Or?
No, where we have co-defendants.
Your co-defendant case.
Oh, okay.
That was
Remember
an
the
interesting
plane
one.
case,
Yeah.
carrying luggage that,
Oh, yes.
and they're all,
Yeah.
I need to go to Dubai, and it's like, then how do you have a public defender?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
that case irks the shit out of me, because I guarantee you that they,
Yeah, I mean,
tell me I'm wrong.
Well, it's like for some cases, and it's just for some clients, right? So they're not really appreciating kind of what's happening or understanding.
My chick has no she doesn't fucking understand anything.
It's like the lack of self accountability
And awareness.
and responsibility
And awareness.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just
she calls me very regularly on my office cell phone, and she wanted me to file a motion. I don't know if you saw it, like to put it on calendar, because even though the judge said, hey, PMP can approve your travel passes or whatever, PMP out there ain't doing it. So I had to put it on to get her to tell them, yes, you can do this affirmatively. She needs to go on this trip for whatever she works at. But the trip's in fucking Dubai.
yeah.
And I'm like, bro, you work for a company that's sending you to Dubai and you don't how did you get a PD?
Yeah, and it's just like understanding, like, look, there's a punishment, right? And that punishment means you have a little bit less freedom for a certain period of time. Like, you are still free out in the world, but you just don't get to necessarily go to Dubai, or go to
that meme with the dudes from It's Always Sunny when they're in their top hats.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
it's-
And then
yeah,
she
science.
had one of her friends that did the same thing. She was telling me about, but flew with hard drugs, and she got how many years was it? She was saying
Oh,
like
5?
5 years. Yeah,
Five,
federal.
something like that,
The
3,
feds picked it up.
3 to
Yeah,
5.
and I'm very shocked that our particular case didn't get picked up by the feds, just because.
If it would have been anything other than weed.
Yeah.
For obviously we can't go into details about the clients, but facts we can talk about. So he had a client, and I had the friend, and they each tried to fly with what, like 40 pounds,
something like that.
Like
2 luggage bags worth.
2 luggage bags full of weed,
Yeah.
and they checked it. They get on the plane, immediately caught. But apparently, I was talking to my client. I guess the people that got her to do it, they've done this. Sometimes it gets through.
Or they say they
They say
they have anyway.
And for
But also
context
flying
too,
international.
yeah, that's the main point. International flight, which is
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like Brittany Griner all over again, but for real. Like Brittany Griner got caught with a fucking weed pin. Could you imagine what they'd do in England? I don't know.
yeah.
Probably wouldn't be good. Because that's where she was going to land. She was going to land in England.
Is it
and they-
legal in England?
No. They were going to connect to Frankfurt, I think.
I mean, even if it was, like, you're transporting 50 pounds of drugs across international.
It's just a plant, Marco. Come on.
Just a plant. It just grows like that. Drugs, you got to do shit to it chemically.
Oh, my God.
You got to add water, baking soda. I don't know the recipe. I'm just saying. Shout out Cat Williams.
So my question for you, Marco, is obviously
Sorry. I have another one.
Oh.
No question.
No, the investigative thing. Remember we talked about outside the box investigations?
Sure.
Yes.
What's like one of the wildest things you had to do? Like, hey, I got an idea. You know, you go and you do something personally.
We're in Vegas, so we get fun places. You go to Fremont Street to talk to people, casinos.
Yeah, literally one of my buddies that trains jiu-jitsu at 10th Planet happened to be a witness in a stabbing that I got assigned. And so I go down to him and he works at the Chippendale booth down there.
Oh my God.
I'm like, hey bro, what's going on? He's like, what's up, Justin? I was like, can I talk to you for a second? He's like, I'm at work, but I got a second. And he's standing there, abs out, all that shit. And I'm like, hey, you videotaped someone getting stabbed. And he's like, oh man, that sucked. And I'm like, yeah.
So can I get that video?
No, he sent it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like and that's just, whatever.
So just for the context of like the PD's office with our tracks, each track has an investigator.
Oh, so you don't have to do it yourself?
Yeah, so we don't have to go. Well, sometimes we do for like certain situations.
Okay.
Like there's context where if there's a particular scene that this crime happened at and the case is going to trial, and it's like really important that I understand like the layout.
Sure.
And it's just not good enough for my investigator to send me pictures, right? Like I need to go there in person and check it out just to get a better understanding of when the witnesses are talking and they reference like a certain thing, like I'm understanding it visually myself.
What they could have seen, what they might not have been able to see, so you can effectively cross-examine.
But we're very fortunate to have investigators, and our investigators do amazing work for sure.
That's good. But I think that's a huge one. And that's very seriously overlooked, it seems like, by a lot of attorneys, because I think it's so simple.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so basic, it seems stupid.
With criminal defense, so much of it is, it's the law part, but being a social worker and being an investigator, and like it's like the trifecta, right? You don't really necessarily have to be a legal scholar to be a great attorney, but you have to have aspects of these 3 different things, like being able to investigate, listen to your clients, being a social worker, trying to help them, get them the services they need, which in turn gives you mitigation to then help them for the criminal defense.
That's the part that I'm social work.
And
it's hard.
The goal is to try and help these people not just get off from a crime either, but improve their lives and get on a route where
get away from the system.
Yeah,
right.
Just you don't want to be in this system. There's nothing good that comes from it. Maybe you're associated with the wrong people in some of their situations.
Or life's just thrown them so many curveballs and kicked them in the teeth. They're like, how do you stand up unless I help you up, get you to your feet, then you can walk on your own.
And it's the number one question I get all the time. How do you do it? How do you do what you do? It's like, well, I love what I do.
How could I not?
Yeah, how could I not? Like these people need help, and we give that to them, and we try to help people. And I know with the system, obviously, it's not always easy to rehabilitate someone when we have a prison industrial complex and whole nother conversation. But
sure, we need another podcast for that.
But we do help, and we do try to get people services and get people assistance, housing assistance, drug assistance, mental health assistance, which unfortunately we need a lot more mental health services in the Valley.
How much do you think that is a percentage of your
mental health and substance abuse, or just mental health?
Just mental health. Because, I mean, if you put both of them together, I'm sure it's got to be 75%.
Yeah, there's co-occurring issues for sure, but surely more than half. Like,
you think so?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's the whole reason that they got where they got, like whether they got in the fight or whether they stole whatever they stole.
Substance abuse and mental health is like just rampant with our clients, unfortunately. Because your average person doesn't just do these crazy things, right? It always has some catalyst for the behavior, and almost always it's substance abuse or mental health where it's coming from.
How many, and if you don't like this question, you don't have to answer it. How many people have you met as clients that were just bad? I'm not going to say evil. You know what I mean? They're just they did it because there's a screw that's not tightened or their brain's wrong or whatever.
Yeah, but like even in those situations, because we do have clients like that, that don't have remorse, and but even in those situations, like where is it coming from?
Right. What's the why rather than the what?
Right. And it's like if my client was a homeless child, right, and didn't have any parents and was raised by gang members his entire life, putting a knife to someone's throat is normal to him, right? But to average people, it's like, no, that's actually not how we deal with confrontation. And
Really?
but it's
You said average people.
Oh, okay,
average
sorry.
people.
I'm kidding. I
get-
do the sarcasm.
so like
all the time.
even in the situations where you have someone who maybe lacks remorse
Sure.
or things of that nature, it's almost surely coming from something.
Sure.
Because unfortunately it happens, right? We have
Yeah.
clients that you do impassioned pleas for, and they get released and they do it again. But again, usually there's almost always a catalyst for
Sure.
the behavior.
No, I would agree with that. I don't think you get there without any reason. I mean, I'm sure that there's some people you're trying to think of what serial killers, because they're the classic example who grew
Yeah.
up in a fine house.
I think that's why they get in the news too, because then people are like,
what? How could this have happened? That's like the Columbine kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? The parents weren't paying attention to them, but other than that, they lived in the suburbs. Like there was a deal I read about that I guess they were making the pipe bombs in the garage,
Mm-hmm.
and if the parents had ever actually gone to walk through the door into the garage, they would have seen that they were making these pipe bombs and they would have figured it out.
Yeah.
But outside of that, perfectly normal suburban life, and then these kids go shoot a school up.
Yeah, and I
know?
wonder, like if they did a brain scan on them or something, like
Yeah.
what could have been, or what material were they ingesting on a daily basis? Like
Microplastics.
like just like what are they reading? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
got you.
Like
sure.
Like where is this thought process coming from?
There's always an obsession with something, and it's always like harm of some sort or blood or involves,
Yeah, something negative.
That always seems to be the thing. There's some kind of obsession with something gruesome that helps it too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree with you. I think that you're right. I don't know. It's just a question that I've wondered sometimes because you see this stuff like with the prevalence of true crime and all this crap, and then like they make documentaries about these serial killers, and it's like I wonder am I ever going to have that person come across my desk where it's not just like, hey, 99% of my people, and I'm counting the other 1% as somebody who just made a bad decision, but 99% of my people have some.
Sure.
It's the reason. Other ones, it's they just got pissed and made a bad decision. They happen to have the worst day of their life, right? And it happens to be the one where I'm going to have their case. But I've often thought, what's going to happen if I get that one? That's really just evil, And I'm air quoting.
And then in that situation, you just try to get the most reasonable punishment, right?
Sure.
Like ultimately, punishment exists,
Yeah.
but there's negotiations and reasonable punishments, right?
Sometimes.
where everyone can be like, okay, this guy got a decent enough punishment where it's fair, right, for what the crime that was committed.
I see some of that not happening sometimes.
He's especially upset over, how you get the draw between district court judges, and sometimes you're pulling for one over the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've literally like
Specifically talking about JC.
when I've had clients in JC2 and we're waving up, and I turn around when we get, we figure out what district court we're going to, and I'm like, yes! And my
Thumbs
client's-
up or thumbs down.
My client's like, yeah, he doesn't know why we're excited. I'm like, so fucking good, let's go.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 roll of the dice there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to like the luck of the draw, right?
But it's also what prosecutor. Because there's a prosecutor on our team. And it's so weird, man, because half the time I get what I consider very reasonable offers. The other half the time, and I'm not going to say whether it's a male or female, but I think you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Sure.
The other half the time, it's like, why would I tell this person not to go to trial?
Yeah.
Because that's the exact same thing that's going to happen if we go to trial.
Yeah, it's with some prosecutors that just, pick and choose for particular individuals that they just don't like, or fact patterns or records or something that's kind of drawing them
Sure.
to really want to make obscene offers. And
part of me understands that because we all have our thing, right?
Sure.
If you were a prosecutor, there's probably a crime that you would be real bothered about.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I can appreciate that.
DUIs, I find DUIs to be pretty offensive,
Yeah.
especially in the era of like Uber and
especially
taxis
here.
and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it also doesn't help that I don't have a car and I ride a motorcycle and I skateboard. So I'm like constantly thinking about
Getting hit.
getting hit by a car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and here it's a very frequent occurrence.
oh yeah.
It's like every day.
It was like that joke. It was like a meme a while back here in Vegas. It was like someone high on cocaine got into a wreck with someone on alcohol or meth.
No,
or
they were
something.
on meth, and it wasn't a meme. That was reality.
Yeah, no, so I'm saying like,
But they turned it into a meme.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it became a meme.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
only
yeah.
in Vegas do these two people get into a car accident, and one person's high on one drug and the other person's high on something else.
The way that I saw it was that it's like a penalty in football. If you've got two at the same time, they cancel each other out, repeat first down. But the one of them got killed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the coke person killed the meth person.
Jesus.
And they hit each other at like 90 miles an hour. The video is fucking insane.
Dude, yeah, that's pretty bad. So yeah, if I was a prosecutor, DUIs,
that'd be your thing,
I'd
DUI?
be pretty offended by.
There's a couple of guys on the team that have that same kind of opinion.
Well, it is such a stupid decision.
No, it is. It's
But-
fucking dumb. And like,
But we get clients that we talk to all the time that, well, I don't want any punishment, you know.
Oh my
I don't
God.
want to lose my license.
dude, I have only
I don't
had that
wanna-
happen.
It's like you got to do something. Like
Well,
there has to be.
I don't need this or that or the other. And it's like, maybe.
I can't lose my license. Well, then you
Bro,
can't drive.
like-
drunk.
I'll never forget. I had a client, not for a DUI case, but had a concurrent DUI case going on, and he came into the office. We're talking about his case, and I was looking into his other cases and saw that he had an open DUI, and I was like, wait a minute, this is 6? You're 6 DUI,
Oh,
and I'm like, bro, like you're gonna go to prison, like that's mandatory.
Once
like
a felon, always a felon.
you are going to prison, and then it like, are you serious? And he starts crying, and I'm like, oh my God, I need my.
no one bothered to fucking tell you this.
Yeah, like, and it was crazy to me. Like, he had an attorney on that case, and I'm like, bro, how has he not told you? Like,
all the other admonishments you signed, you don't remember?
you 100% are going to prison on this DUI.
And that's a 2 to 20, or no, it's a 1 to 6.
I can't remember.
I think
the
everyone
structure.
after 3 is a 1 to 6.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and it's a 2 to 20 if you hurt somebody. Also a 2 to 20 if you flee the scene.
But then it becomes mandatory prison too. Like, there's
Yeah.
no
Those
probation.
are all mandatory.
Oh
the,
wow.
the DUI,
Like
anything-
after third.
After third, and there's a deal. So typically the way it works is first and second misdemeanors, punishments increase. Third is a felony, but you can get into a specialty court program called the Serious Offenders Program.
Right.
That is a 2-year program, real labor intensive, 90 days house arrest, a bunch of other shit. Like, you earn it, but you get dropped from a felony and you get another DUI second. So you have a first and 2 seconds.
Sure.
But one of the stipulations with the program is, unless, of course, you got a third and a fourth, which I have a client like that right now within 30 days. Got a third, got a fourth. They both get folded to each other to a DUI third, so she gets that same benefit. But everyone after that, once you're out of the program, no more SOP, all felony, all prison.
Yeah.
Every single one. That's the once a felon, always a felon thing. It's like a, I don't know what you call it, like the anti specialty court program, saying, hey, you did this, we gave you your shot.
Yeah. No,
You
it's done.
squandered
It's a
it,
wrap.
so fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
And DUI is one of the few misdemeanors where they make you sign something saying you understand that this penalty increases
Yeah.
Right.
every
Yeah.
time. And
So-
allegedly there would have been other attorneys going over that every time
you would
saying,
assume.
hey,
Yeah.
it increases,
well, the
it
judge
increases.
definitely does.
And then the
have
judge
to-
does
they
on
They
the
have to
record.
canvas.
have
Yeah.
to. Well, the only time that it's maybe it gets completely glazed over is if they sign it in the attorney's office, they do a written entry of plea, because then the judge doesn't get to talk to them and say, hey, you understand this, you signed it.
I see.
So like maybe it's like, oh, just sign this thing, it's no big deal, and then that's all they get. But I highly doubt that actually occurs. I'm just saying it's possible.
I don't know. We do it right and really go over it with everybody.
Yeah,
so
100%.
I don't know what
But
everybody else does.
the only thing I will say about DUI is that I'm with you, but I'm kind of not with you on some of it. The culpability state for a DUI, substantial bodily harm, is a little different than, like, let's say, second degree murder or anything like that, right? Because I'm not choosing. I'm being reckless, and that it's a conscious disregard for people's safety. But I don't think I've ever seen one where the allegation is you got drunk and got in a car with the intention of hurting somebody.
Sure. Right.
So I'm with you, but at the same time, when I think about it from the mens rea perspective, it's like, it's a little
Because not everybody DUI drives crazy.
true. And what I always tell people when I'm canvassing them on the admonishment, I say, look, here's a hypothetical. I'm drunk, you're not. We both go through lights. I have a green. You think you have a green. We hit each other. You get hurt. Who are they going to believe? Not me. They're going to believe you. And then I'm going to prison, even if the DUI wasn't the substantial contributing factor to the crash.
Sure.
And so that's
Okay.
the risk you run.
Right.
And so in those situations, it's like, fuck, right?
I think I'm understanding what you're saying. So
I don't know.
basically, like, when an accident happens and it doesn't necessarily have to derive from the
Correct.
alcohol, but you will 100% be blamed for it because
Yep.
you have alcohol in your system.
Unless there is a video or something that shows that other person was lying. But basically, that's the only way to get out of it. That mandatory prison, unless you deal it down, if there's some reason, but they're not going to deal it down unless there's a reason like that, where it's like, okay, yeah, you were drunk, the crash happened, but they are the one to be at fault. If you're just driving 40, 10 and 2 straight through an intersection, they T-bone you through a red, the DUI has nothing to do with that.
Sure.
It's like the but for, or not like the proximate cause of the crash.
So you wouldn't want to take the public defender position for the DUI track, I'm guessing.
I probably wouldn't be the best attorney.
Okay.
For that.
Perfect.
No,
because you don't believe
fine.
in it.
That's fine.
Right? And that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good limitation to know. Sorry, we kind of got off of it.
No, and we got to wind down now. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Usually we have a listener question. I'll be the listener this time. There is one. I typed one up. So
Let's just use yours.
So my first one is, I know undoubtedly there's a stigma out there with public defenders that they're not very good attorneys. And I hate hearing that because I know how hard you guys work.
Sure.
How do you deal with it when a client comes to you and kind of you've probably had them question your skill level or your commitment to the case or something? What's your spiel that you give to a client to say, trust me, I'm here for you? Like, what do you say to a client like that?
Well, I mean, actions speak louder than words. You know what I mean? Eventually, the clients will see you work, right? And see you do your job. And if they see that and they see you putting in the work, then they respect you. I mean, that's what it comes down to. A lot of times with client control, sometimes you have a client who wants to go forward with a preliminary hearing or go forward with a case on a bad case, right? That he really shouldn't, or she. But then by seeing the process, seeing their attorney do the work, they build that respect for you, and then they will listen to you.
They trust you.
They just trust you more through the process because maybe they have some opinion about public defenders and they don't trust them.
Like
for
they
whatever
think you're
reason.
just trying to deal it, just to get off of it.
But if I have like some boilerplate statement, I say to clients, no, not really. I mean, I tell them like, look, my job is to represent you to the best of my ability. I don't get paid any different on what we do for your case. My only investment is to be a good attorney. I went to law school and have pride in what I do, and I do it for you. Just take it or leave it. You know what I mean? That's just what I do. See me do my job, and I'll get a good outcome for your case.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I've definitely told. I think I told you about it the other day, where that gal came in and she was kind of questioning, like, "Oh, the PD wouldn't do good," and I was like, "Well, that's not exactly true. I mean, maybe they have more on their plate, and that's the truth. You have more cases than I do.
Yeah.
Period. Even with my track. But outside of that, like I told her straight up, I was like, I know them, the ones that I work with anyway. I can't speak for the rest of them, but they're smart. They try really hard. They come up with, fuck Alex, I have to ask him questions all the time. Granted, but he's like the paterfamilias of the area. He knows everything there is to know about a lot of the specialty courts and stuff. So, I mean, to say that they're not smart or that they don't try is bullshit. Well, it's just a work level. That's the only thing that might be different. Right?
And I think
time.
One thing that clients don't necessarily understand is that our office handles like 90% of all criminal cases in the Valley. So if you think of it that way, like we are the most experienced attorneys because we have 90% of all the cases.
How many trials you done?
Me personally, only 2.
Oh,
which not many.
But your guys' form banks are just insane. They have all these motions, oppositions, just like we've seen. We're on the NACJ that sends out things when necessary, when people are asking.
That fucking bank, you holding out on me, Michael? What the fuck? This is bullshit.
They have every motion imaginable that you can ask coworkers for. You guys are the biggest criminal defense team, you're probably, in the whole state.
You're probably one of the biggest firms.
Because Clark County
alone.
County is, we have the most crimes.
And we're what, 90% of the state's population?
We are
out of the 3 million, we're 2.6 or some shit like that. The Valley, Clark County, Nevada, I think
we're creeping up on
of the whole state's population.
Yeah, the whole state's only like 3 million, I think.
I think we're definitely over half, but not quite there.
Oh, sorry, 3.2 million in the whole state.
And what, like 2.5 in Vegas?
If I could type. Clark County 2.398, so 2.4 out of 3.2.
We're over 2/3, yeah. And then my last question for you. Great answer to the first one. My last question for you. Let's talk about somebody aspiring to help, in the criminal defense sphere in any way, or specifically wants to become a public defender, what advice would you give that person that's kind of seeing maybe there are some injustices? What can I do to help?
Sure.
Or somebody on the path that maybe is considering becoming a public defender, what advice would you give to that person?
I would say call your local public defender and talk to an attorney. You'd be surprised how many attorneys are so passionate in our office about what we do that if you just call our office and ask, hey, I'd like to be involved, can you get me in touch with someone in the office that does outreach, things like that? Like we have attorneys in our office that do outreach. And you can intern. We have interns in our office that are in law school, that they're just planting the seeds to come to our office in the future, and just giving an office a call or a local attorney that you saw on the news. And attorneys love to take out law students to lunch and get coffee because they have such big heads and they love talking about their work. And so don't be afraid to just kind of reach out to your local PD office. That's probably what I would recommend.
Awesome.
I have a question. So we have our little cups.
Yeah.
So mine is my thing is don't talk to cops.
You got mine, which is
This is
don't
don't
represent
represent
yourself.
yourself.
Bad idea.
For client, like if you were to give like 3 bumper stickers for your clients, you got any of those?
Bumper stickers.
Like advice, like general legal when dealing with a cop.
I mean,
Shut your mouth.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the obvious
Shut the fuck up
one.
Friday.
I think I just had that conversation with a client earlier today. It's just like I'm reading through his case and he's just immediately confessing to
I did
everything
it.
and giving consent.
Sure did. Oh, you want to look in the bag? Go right ahead.
It's just like the thought process that if they're forthcoming and upfront, that it'll somehow benefit them.
No.
But-
it's shocking how many people don't know that cops can fucking lie to you.
Yeah, and it's they just don't understand. And I always tell my clients, just don't be respectful, be polite. If they command you to do something, do it. Show your ID or identify yourself. But other than that, where are you going? Where are you coming from? I don't answer any questions. My attorneys told me to not answer any questions. That's it.
Yeah.
Which can be, intimidating, right? I mean, I'm an attorney. I get pulled over by police. I still get a little nervous. You know what I mean? But you just
But you
gotta
don't have a car in the motorcycle.
motorcycle.
Say you get stopped on your longboard,
but
like you on a longboard, pull over.
So last time I got pulled over, we were in a rental car in Montana, and we were leaving a ranch.
Is that for your wedding?
It was before the wedding.
Oh, okay.
We were visiting like different places to have it at, and I get pulled over for speeding, and the cops. Do you know how fast you're going? I was like, I'm not sure actually. I'm pretty sure I was going the speed limit for the highway. And he's like, no, the speed limit's 55 or whatever on this highway. He's like, I wasn't aware of that. And he's like, where are you coming from? The ranch. There's no speed limit sign. He's like, oh, you're right. There isn't a speed limit sign. Okay, well,
It's 55. Have a good day.
yeah, it's 55 actually. Have a good day.
Drive safe.
But
Nice.
but your average person though,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just don't say anything. Just keep your mouth shut.
Also, the stakes are a little lower in that situation.
Right, it's just a speeding ticket.
You're there. You know that there's nothing in the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But if you're caught red-handed doing something, like it's always in your best
Well,
interest.
it's
to
certainly
just-
not going to help you because it helps their job,
right.
which is beyond that meeting their burden. It's their burden.
Yeah, and
Right.
They're not your friend.
No.
They're not there to help you. They're there to arrest you and prosecute you.
Anything you say can and will.
Yeah.
Will be used.
All right, that's good stuff.
Well, thanks for coming with us on this
especially
trip.
on short notice.
Marco.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thanks for having me.
We're very grateful for Gideon and your work as a public defender. Thank
Thank
you. The public needs people like you.
Appreciate it, man.
We are grateful.
And I
Thank you, guys.
appreciate you always putting up with me in court.
You're delightful to work with.
Sometimes.
I'm sure that's not true.
Sometimes.
Dude, on fucking Monday,
Oh, your face was tomato red.
Was
you
it? I thought I was gonna pop, dude.
You were pissed for sure.
yeah, it was pretty fucking bad.
It happens, Well, it just means you care, right? It means you care.
So another attorney actually told me later after that, he said that I need to stop caring more than they do. My clients.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I get it. Like if it's the 10th time and it's like, hey man, you got to be on time. We got this court date, and they don't show up, and then I'm struggling, fighting against the current. I get it, but at the same time, So for me, it's twofold. It's I really hate losing, A, and then B, I don't particularly like the government, right? If I'm going to synthesize it, right?
Sure.
Which I think the individual, is the one that should be afforded the grace and all that stuff. And so that's why I think I take the position that I take with caring as much as I do.
Yeah.
It's same result, but not for the same reason as you. It's not about, I want to help people. I mean, I do want to help people, but not because they're people and I just love people.
Sure.
Right? It's a different reason that gets me to the same place, and I think that's why I care as much.
Oh, okay. I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just the motivation's just slightly different.
Yeah, slightly different. Same result.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely get fucking pissed.
Yeah.
And then I turn into a tomato. Like one of those hats over there. Probably the one on the bottom right. Right?
Yeah, that one. That's what you look like.
I love that.
And the mustache.
And the mustache. I
right.
should grow a sweet mustache. All right, guys.
Thank
talk to
you
cops.
all. Don't talk to cops.
Don't talk
Peace.
to cops. Keep your mouth shut.
Yes. And they're not your friends.
All right, we had an awesome guest on. Huge thanks to Marco Luna. This case reminded me of another case in Huntsville, Alabama. Outside of there is Scottsboro, Alabama. This is kind of the first case in the 1930s that even talked about having the right to a public defender for those capital punishment crimes. It was the Huntsville boys the Scottsboro boys or the Scottsboro 9 were 9 black teenage boys who were accused of raping 2 white women. They had representatives. They had a real estate agent who represented some of them, and then an old retired lawyer who represented the rest. There's some historical, stuff out there on this case, but they did not get a fair trial, is what the Supreme Court decided, and they would have been entitled to defense counsel for capital punishment cases such as this one. So because of that, and there were retrials in the area all around Huntsville, Alabama, the Rocket City Trash Pandas, which means raccoon. This is a red, white, and blue starred version. Baseball does that a lot. So this is a Rocket City because there's a NASA has some work there, and then Trash Pandas because there's a lot of raccoons in the area. So it's kind of a raccoon in a trash can that's a rocket. Make it make sense. Shout out.